crikey. Hello, they put me on second. It's good because there are so many great talks after this one that if I'm, not great, well, you're not going to remember it. It's so ice broken. I'm going to take 10 minutes and talk about a very unique venue and a few aspects of the work me and my colleagues did in relation to it. I'm going to be simplifying like crazy, so if you want any more details, please come find me afterwards in the office hours. I'll be very happy to go deeper. So, here we go. Background. There's this sphere. You might have heard of it. Madison Square Gardens spent a big pile of cash and built an artificial sun in the Nevada desert. It's 112 meters high, and it's covered in these little LED pucks, they're called, that let them play videos and adverts on the outside. But we don't care about that. We're here to talk about the inside, which is a 20,000 person capacity performance venue. It's split over levels, and it has a very unique backdrop, a ginormous hemisphere of high-resolution LED wall. It's reported to be the biggest in terms of resolution in the world. So this is it. How do you get a picture on this screen? Well, okay, they have an in-house system that can play a film up there, but, that's not going to be enough for a band, like, say, U2, for instance. What they're going to want to put on. They're going to want layers of video, generative content, live cameras on Bono. So that's where we come in. We are Disguise. I work for Disguise. We make and sell media servers, high-powered boxes for driving screens on stage shows and touring concerts and virtual production stages. We have a long-standing history with U2. So when they got booked to be the first act at the Sphere, it wasn't long before we got involved. So we ended up working with their video team to help commission a system of 23 Disguise servers to run the show from, getting the content up on that screen. So digression, when I say we, I'm Josh. Hello, good morning, nice to meet you all. I am a lead engineer at Disguise. I've been there for 4 years now. I moved to Disguise because I wanted a role that was a bit more lively than what I'd been doing, and I definitely got it. The live events industry is bananas. Everything comes down to the wire. Everything comes together in like the last 5 minutes. It's terrifying. And so the challenge here was this. The incoming video is too big to store on the machines. The show, as planned, just will not fit on the drives in our machines, and that's before we've even looked at performance, how we're actually going to play it. So straight in, we're going to have to give each machine a subsection of the overall content. But, the screen has complex geometry, so I'm going to breeze through this, don't worry. A rectangular output to a spherical screen is not going to require, just jigsawing. It's not going to be just, cut up each part of the image, because it's distorted. So these little red dots here, I've stolen this from Wikipedia. These red dots here indicate kind of distortion over the projection. So how are we going to work out what content each machine needs? Well, this is where me and my team enter the story. Very quickly, late in 2022, we shipped a feature called Single Large Canvas, SLC, that was supposed to enable outputting to ultra-large surfaces, bigger than the Sphere, bigger than anything existing. Now, this launch was not exactly a barnstormer. We merged and shipped a big, horrible feature branch, which affected basically every aspect of the software. And, I'm sure you can all imagine how that went. And for our efforts, most users weren't all that interested in using surfaces bigger than anything that actually existed. Right. But SLC had an essential feature that was going to work magic here. It could calculate exactly what input was needed to produce a given output. This was intended for real-time performance improvement. But we were going to flip it on its head and have it run offline, turning one big video into lots of smaller ones. And so this is the outcome of that process. This is developer art, I'm afraid. This is the canvas cut into overlapping pieces, mostly one per machine with a few exceptions that describe what each machine will need, taking into account the spherical transform. So we figured out which pixels and drawn a box around them. Now, this picture is very nice, but it's not much use to the client. And so for that, we had the assistance of our product engineering team. For anyone unfamiliar with the concept, their job was to be engineers working even more closely with the user than the rest of us, building tools and libraries that directly helped deliver projects. So this is what it looked like in the actual software. It's a bit less attractive. But together, we came up with a plan. SLC would produce a definition of which machines needed which parts of the video, and product engineering would produce a tool that the user could take to apply this division to an actual video. Now, this is all very abstract, so I'm going to talk in terms of an actual timeline here. To give you an idea of the timescales, this discussion about theoretical software, we called it Slicer, starts mid-April. The first alpha of this software was ready and on site for the 1st of July. We wanted to get everything sorted for the show by September 1st to have a nice buffer of 4 weeks before the first show at the end of September. Spoiler, no.
Yeah.
So product engineering working on Slicer was split between the UK and the US, and the process was super efficient. An engineer on site with the client could show them the latest build, get them to find all the problems with it, write up a pile of tickets, and then hand them over to an engineer working early in the UK. They would then action the tickets UK time, and an engineer working late in the UK could pass the new build and the list of fixes straight back on site to the client for the next day. And this is what they put together. So say hello to Slicer. We're a C++ house, but for maximum speed in prototyping, the product engineering team decided to make the bold choice to write this in Vue.js, which certainly helped my stress levels. The software came together very quickly, and this was a critical period for clear communication. And for me as a lead, it's when it became a project that I was not just sort of involved with and aware of, but that I was going to, roll up my sleeves and get involved with, because I'm talking to my direct reports. I say direct reports, I'm talking to Nathan. I promised to name drop him. And he's saying he just can't seem to get on the same page with the product engineering team about the data interop spec, about this JSON file they're passing back and forth. And I'm giving him advice. I'm saying, well, go to them and say this and organize a meeting here. But it's not plain sailing, and I know it needs to be with less than 2 months to go. So I drop all my other commitments and I get up to speed with the technical aspects of this, because the alarm bells are going off. It's going to be a bit bumpy. Then to make things worse, on the 17th of August, 13 days till our self-imposed deadline, the engineer leading Slicer on the product engineering team, who was our de facto product owner, left. Obviously, we knew she was in her notice period, but somehow it was still a surprise. So, if I have one teachable moment in here, it's this. You have to recognize when people are doing de facto roles, when people are doing, taking on implicit responsibilities. Not just because they might leave, but also so you can reward them, but also because they might leave. It's what we did was we said, well, the explicit responsibilities, developing Slicer, have been handed over, job done. But we didn't realize we had lost our central point of contact. Because what you have in that person is overview, knowing everything that's in play at a given time. We all kept doing what we had been doing, listening to the user, turning around work with handoffs between London and the States, but we didn't have anyone with that foresight. And what this meant was we dropped plates. We knew they were up there spinning, but we dropped them. Remember when I said about what a touring band might expect? We knew they would want generative content, and it didn't work. We could have been working on that in the background. We could have pulled someone in to do it all the way through August into September. But in the end, we delivered the fix for that on the 24th of September. And we knew about that issue. It had a JIRA ticket. But there was no one with the oversight, the technical awareness, and the customer relationship to say, what we're doing is very important, but we also need to do this. So, we blew past that September 1st deadline. Everyone kept going the whole month of September. The show basically rolled up engineers at this point like a katamari. We had one or more developers out on site for most of that time, and we finally got to our no more changes, this is the show build, with 48 hours to go. And in our internal Slack channel on the 29th, there were only 6 messages, and 3 of them were about Bono. So they did the show. It worked great. Everyone happy. big exhale, calm down. Okay, so what happened next? Well, we had to keep going. They didn't stop after one. They kept putting this on for 3 months. So there were all kinds of minor issues, performance improvements to catch. I think I mentioned in the description for this show having a performance improvement in your back pocket. We discovered, we found some unnecessary texture allocations 2 weeks into the run of shows, and taking that out was a huge freebie and made everyone love us. So as well, we tried to action the take-homes I've noted here. This is a top-down view of the huge retrospective we did, and just to give a very brief look into what we actually came from that. For the next show, Fish, the jam rock band, we created a dedicated role called Project Squad Lead, which was essentially doing what our now, ex-product owner had been doing on U2. And I took on this role, and so for 3 months, I was Mr. Fish. Everything Fish, everyone knew that they had to tell me if they were doing it, or they could come to me if they wanted to know it. And I knew absolutely everything, even if it wasn't my area of expertise. It's a simple message, but leadership is important. It still all came together in the last 2 weeks, because that just seems to be how live events go, but the experience was calmer and smoother with someone specifically taking on that role. So yeah, that's me. Thank you very much.